Good Wednesday morning. I'm Tyler Keefe in the studios of Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. This is the Oakland County Megacast. I'm joined as always by Ronnie Dahl in her home studio.
Happy hump day to you.
Yes.
I always look at Wednesday as like the midweek point.
It is.
You made it through Monday, Tuesday. You only had Thursday, Friday to go. So this is the day to have a fun day.
It is. Wednesday is the fun day of the week. You get through this day, your week's on the downward, it's almost done, and especially for someone like me, like I'm going to let you all in on a little secret. Don't tell anybody on our several TV and radio stations, but I'm getting out a little early the next couple of days. Don't say it. Let's just keep that between all of us.
Well, Tyler, though, you need to knock on wood and make sure there are no emergencies, because when you do that, things tend to happen.
Oh, I'm definitely I'm challenging some bad juju right now. That's for sure.
No, but on top of that, I will say, I think so many people don't understand. Tyler doesn't just co-host this show. He does so much more. So he's full-time, I'm part-time. But when we sign off, I go off to work on all my side projects. Tyler stays there and for countless hours, because he is the person behind the scenes, also making sure that all of the meetings are getting on air, all those public access meetings. So you have to remember that while a lot of cities have public access channels, we are a combination of 4 communities. So we have Sylvan Lake, Orchard Lake, Keiko Harbor, and West Bloomfield. So that means you have 4 times the amount of public access meetings. And Tyler is the one that is behind the scenes making sure that all of these meetings are being aired for you to be able to view, if not at that point in time, but at some point in time at the future. And I will say, Tyler, I was getting text messages late, because really the big meeting everyone's been talking about here within the community, especially Keiko Harbor, is the school board meeting and talking about the possible closure of Roosevelt Elementary School.
Yeah, that's definitely been the big news this week in certainly Keiko Harbor, but all throughout the West Bloomfield School District, as they try to devise their plans for the future of educating kids in the West Bloomfield School District, knowing that virtual learning isn't going to be the number one way to educate our kids forever. The pandemic isn't going to go on forever, but it is going to be a part of the learning process, and it's going to be part of the options for these students and these families going forward in some capacity. So with that and just general enrollment issues combined, the one of the easier ways to cut some of those costs and make your operation a little more efficient is to close schools. In this case, the controversy, so to speak, and for lack of better words, in Keiko Harbor revolving the potential of Roosevelt being an option for closing, is that it is an historic building in the city of Keiko. In Keiko Harbor, it is well over 100 years. It's one of the oldest school buildings in Oakland County and in the state of Michigan that's still standing in its mostly original form. So definitely something that's going to be a discussion in the West Bloomfield School District for a while to come. It's something that's always a contentious issue. I remember growing up, there were issues in the Bloomfield Hills School District where I graduated about consolidating schools and closing certain schools. And the schools that I attended, Lone Pine and West Hills Middle School, were both potentially up for closure during that period. It's a tough thing to navigate in a community, because sometimes you do need to consolidate schools for a more efficient operation to cut costs that can be put to better things for educating kids. But there are those attachments to these buildings and to those institutions in the community, such as Roosevelt in Keiko Harbor and other schools throughout the West Bloomfield School District area.
So in my junior high school, I grew up in Tiffin, Ohio, little small town in Northwest Ohio. My junior high school was closed and then eventually demolished. And every time I go home, it's kind of hard to see because it's just a vacant lot. Nothing has been built there. And I understand one of the reasons a lot of people move into certain communities is based on the schools. And as you were saying, we just celebrated the anniversary in the history of Roosevelt Elementary. And so the possibility of it definitely has a lot of people in this community up in arms. And but the important thing is there is a process to have their voices heard. But on top of that, Tyler, one of the things is we have to understand this pandemic has highlighted a lot of different issues within our educational system. And I think these school districts are realizing that they are possibly losing a lot of students due to the pandemic to some of these online schools. And so maybe there's some good to come out of this, but at the end of the day, you have to remember the school districts are, their funding comes from how many students are sitting in the seats on any given day. And the pandemic has made that harder, but there are some parents who are deciding to, number one, just go all virtual and go with one of these other platforms that have been out there for years and already well established. Number two, maybe going to a private or a Catholic school where students are in class right now. So there are so many barriers that these educators are up against. But at the end of the day, we all just want our kids to be well educated and have the best education possible.
Yeah, it's a tough challenge, and especially with the school districts already being somewhat strapped for cash this school year, somewhat strapped for cash next school year, definitely in the future as a result of the pandemic, and with the competitive nature now of schooling, with some parents and some families and some kids preferring to learn online and exploring those options, whether it be in a private school environment, in a charter school environment, or looking for those options in public schools, and then, of course, maybe choosing to go to those schools instead of those in their immediate living area. It's going to be the next great challenge for these school districts, trying to remain competitive and provide good options for online learning while maintaining good options for learning in person and in traditional forms, while modifying those traditional forms for this new reality that's going to come as a result of the pandemic.
Well, it's one thing that's this crisis is teaching us is all to think outside the box. And I know our school leaders are trying to do that, but they are faced with just an enormous challenge during this pandemic, but they are doing the best that they can and trying to address so many of these different issues within our education system. I will say, I'm a Kegel Harbor resident. We don't have kids, but we love having Roosevelt here in our community. It's why so many people move into our community as well, because of the educational system, and we would hate to see that school go away. So to be continued. We'll see where this conversation continues to go. But one of the things we need people to do is to support our educators and our school districts during this time. Yeah, and we know it's hard, because if you're a parent, you're looking out for what's best for your kid. So parents are put in a hard position as well.
Yeah, the parents and the school district both are in a tough position with this because, as you said, the parents want to do what's best for their kids. And the school districts do too, but they have to balance doing what's best for all the kids in the school district now and into the future, and balancing the need to maintain an attachment to the school district so that people do have an emotional investment and a educational investment in the school district and will have their voices heard. And so, of course, nothing's official just yet. They have not decided if they are going to close schools officially or not. They haven't decided which schools, if they do go with that option, would be potentially being closed. They're at the point right now where they are hearing the voices of the people in the community and initially forming some sort of a plan to understand the information that they have at play to make these decisions down the road, should they need to make them.
Yeah, and while this is being talked about at great lengths here in the city of Keiko Harbor and other communities, I think this is just the start. Every other school district within the state of Michigan is going to be having this conversation as well. So it's an important conversation, and we'll see where it leads. But of course, that's one of the big things that's being talked about here in Keiko Harbor, but also in the greater West Bloomfield area. Some of the headlines making news, though, across the state as well is, get ready. The state is really expecting there is going to be an uptick in COVID-19 cases due to the Thanksgiving travel. No surprise here, right? The governor warned that cases in Michigan could rise over the next couple of weeks because too many people traveled for Thanksgiving, despite CDC warnings. And those cases are going to take 2 to 3 weeks to show up in state data and are expected to increase state numbers ahead of the Christmas holiday. That's according to the governor. She had that press conference yesterday afternoon, updating the state of Michigan and our residents here about the latest on COVID-19. The state reported 190 deaths related to the virus on Tuesday, 30 of which were identified through delayed record reviews. With the 30 delayed reports, though, Tyler, Tuesday's tally is the largest since the previous record of 164 on April 16, when none of the deaths reported included those identified through delayed record reviews. Keep in mind, the Chief Medical Executive, Dr. Dwayne Khaldun, is cautioning people who have traveled to stay away from others for 14 days upon return. Stay in contact with those they visited. We saw the numbers coming out of the TSA. A record number of people actually traveled over the holiday weekend since this pandemic began. Despite the CDC numbers, people still traveled over the holidays. And on top of that, I think we saw a lot of college students too coming home. The one thing that could be good out of that, Tyler, is the students that traveled home, I think they're going to stay home, and they will not be going back to college until January.
Yeah, in a lot of those cases, that is going to be what happens. And then for those that are in-state students as well, a lot of these in-state schools are not going to have in-person learning in the next semester. That may be the case in many of these other schools out of state. So if there are people that are coming back in from these out-of-state schools, there is a fair amount of likelihood that they will be staying put at least for several weeks or into the distant future. In terms of where we're going with the state numbers, they're looking a little bit better. That is what Dr. Khaldun had mentioned yesterday at the governor's press conference, which you can find on civiccentertv.com, right there on our homepage under yesterday's edition of the Megacast on demand. But the numbers are still going down marginally, so still a lot to be careful about out in the community in regards to COVID-19, as this pandemic is still far from being over, Ronnie.
You know, there are so many interesting things to be discussed here, and one of the things I think that needs to be addressed is really the governor's administration is at a crossroads. What are they going to do after this 3-week pause? And so it's another decisive moment in the fight against COVID-19, as the 3-week halt on some of the businesses, in-person instruction at high schools, and indoor dining at restaurants scheduled to be lifted December 9th, 1 week from today, Tyler. I don't think schools are so much an issue right now, because a lot of schools went ahead and went remote, and then they just won't plan on coming back into the buildings until the first of the year. But amid the fears of the economic fallout, many business owners oppose the extension to the so-called pause to save lives that closed bars, movie theaters, and bowling alleys. but strong concerns continue about hospitals' ability to cope with the ongoing surge and the coronavirus as the coronavirus infections in Michigan remain near capacity. So Tuesday, the governor did say yesterday in the press conference, too early to announce whether the state's 3-week pause would be extended. She said it was likely the effect of the pause would be clearer early next week. Any announcement about whether to continue the pause will be made before December 8th to give businesses, high schools, colleges, and residents time to comply. My guess is, Tyler, number one, the people who traveled, are those numbers going to be an impact on some of the businesses and those decisions to continue this pause? That's one thing that she didn't address yesterday. My guess is, though, that we're going to continue to see this pause at least through the first of the year.
Yeah, I would imagine the same thing to be the case, even with the positivity rate of COVID-19 cases being down over the past week based on the numbers that Dr. Caldoun reported at yesterday's press conference with Governor Whitmer. I think a 1% drop from 14% to 13% in a week, one week into the 3-week pause is not going to be enough to convince the governor, her team, and the Health and Human Services Department to switch things up. I think that a lot of what is currently in a shutdown mode or is in a state of pause, so to speak, is going to be continued on for a while as they try to get those numbers even further down. A 1% change probably is not significant enough. And of course, with the traveling for Thanksgiving still not being within that incubation period where you would see those positive cases as a result of that travel coming in, I think that the governor and her team at the state level, at the executive level in Michigan, are going to have a tough decision to make very soon as we're coming up on that end of this 3-week pause, 1 week from today.
Well, and think about that too. Now we have Christmas coming in as well. So the governor is reminding people to also not travel for the Christmas holiday and to limit your interaction. So this is ongoing. But the good news is the move for the vaccine is moving forward. And it does look like Michigan is going to be on the front line of getting at least some of those vaccines mid-December or the 3rd week of December, but they will go to some of the healthcare workers first, which is good. But also, if you are planning to travel across the border, Canada, the Canadian Prime Minister said that the ban on non-essential travel with the United States is not going to be lifted until COVID-19 is more under control around the world. Canada and the U.S. have limited border crossings since March, extending restrictions each and every month. And this makes it hard. Now, just so you know, about 400,000 people crossed the world's longest international border each day before the pandemic. Essential cross-border workers like healthcare professionals, airline crews, truck drivers are still permitted to cross because, keep in mind, truck drivers are critical as they move food and medical goods in both directions. About 75% of Canada's exports go to the U.S., which has more confirmed cases and deaths from COVID-19 than any other country in the world. And with that, keep in mind, there are a lot of people here in the U.S. and in Canada that own property across the border. And Canada is well known for its tourism in the winter months because so many people go skiing and enjoy those winter weather sports. That's not going to happen. Those property owners are not going to be able to go to their properties. They need to stay put.
Yeah, Canada continues to push back their reopening of the border with the United States as our issues with COVID-19 continue to change over time, continue to ebb and flow from being serious to being moderate, and as Canada continues to have their own problems with COVID-19 as well. It's going to affect people that travel. It's going to continue to affect people that have family across the border. It'll affect some people that do work between the U.S. and Canada as Canada continues to be very restrictive about who they let in from the United States as this COVID-19 pandemic continues to move forward, even as a vaccine is on the way.
So many things to this coronavirus pandemic that we continue to navigate, and that is the reason why we do the Oakland County Megacast each and every day. Our goal here is trying to bring you the latest information and interviews with so many people impacted by COVID-19 and this crisis. It really is like every part of our daily lives at this point in time, 8 months in, and it's not getting any easier. The information continues to change. And so with that, Tyler and I are going to take a quick break here on the Oakland County Megacast. And when we come back, we have an entire day booked with great interviews, great guests to give you the latest information on where so many things stand here in the greater West Bloomfield area and across the state of Michigan with COVID-19 and the crisis. So with that, Tyler and I will take a quick break here on the Oakland County Megacast.
Michigan, we still need to stay careful because we don't want to go backwards, back to where we started. So keep standing 6 feet apart. Keep wearing a mask in public. And if you have symptoms, talk to a healthcare provider about getting tested. To move forward, let's all do our part. So stay careful. Michigan.gov/coronavirus.
Hi, I'm Dr. Faust, the Medical Director for the Oakland County Health Division. The most important thing you can do to prevent the spread of illness is to wash your hands thoroughly and often. Follow these 6 easy steps every time you wash your hands. Step 1, turn on the sink and wet your hands with warm water. Step 2, apply soap to your hands and lather between your fingers, under your nails, and the front and back of your hands and wrists. Step 3, wash your hands by scrubbing them together for at least 20 seconds. Step 4, rinse your hands with warm, clean water. And step 5, dry your hands with a clean cloth towel, a paper towel, or hot air blow dryer. If you're using a cloth towel, make sure to change it often. For handheld faucets, turn off the water using a paper towel instead of your bare hand. Step 6, if you're using a paper towel, throw it away. Practice healthy habits like washing your hands after coughing or sneezing into them to keep you and others healthy. Go to oakgov.com/health or call Nurse on Call at 1-800-848-5533 to learn more.
Always great to have you with us here on the Oakland County Wednesday. We are halfway through the week, which is always a great thing. But on top of that, that means we are halfway through our week here on the Oakland County Megacast. And I will say our entire team does such a great job each and every day trying to work behind the scenes to bring you the greatest and the best interviews here for the Oakland County Megacast. And I think the great thing that we are able to do as someone who came from mainstream media is that we can bring you the interviews in full length. So you don't get the 10-second soundbite, which can be so hard for a reporter to navigate. You get the full interview right here on on the Oakland County Megacast. We are here Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to noon. Civic Center TV, Birmingham Area Municipal Access, Channel 15 if you have Comcast, 99 if you have AT&T. You can always catch us as well on the radio, 89.3 Lakes FM, 88.1 FM The Biff. And we also want to say thank you to the West Bloomfield Parks Department for allowing us to live stream today's edition of the Oakland County Megacast on their Facebook page. And off of that, we would also like to bring into this conversation Kelly Hyer. She is the Recreation Superintendent for the West Bloomfield Parks. So, Kelly, I will tell you, one of the things is I try not to wear my glasses so you don't get the glare from the lights.
Yeah.
But it gets harder and harder and harder. So I'm trying to read this copy, and I do this. I start out here and I go way out there. I really just need to suck it up and put my glass.
No, add that to the struggles of working from home.
Exactly. But it's always great to have you and your team members here with us on the Oakland County Megacast. And with that, you're working from home. How does that work in a parks department?
Yeah, that's a great question. And first, before I answer that, I just want to, again, extend my kudos to you guys right from the get-go, being so creative, and the Civic Center TV cast team that you have there is amazing. So I just wanted to make sure I got that in.
Well, thank you. And I will say it is a team effort, and I joined this team much later, but they do amazing things behind the scenes. I don't think a lot of people understand what goes into not only putting a megacast on like this, but also for so many members of your team to realign and reshift what you normally do to still bring service to the community. But at a time for you guys in a pandemic, you're busier than ever.
It is, because you're busier in a different way. And so how do we work from home in a Parks and Recreation department? Well, there are certain staff members that need to be on the front lines and physically at the buildings and parks every day. So administratively and more on the recreation end, we're fortunate enough that for a lot of us, we can, wherever we can plug in to Wi-Fi and make phone calls, we can do our jobs. Because for recreation program planning, it's a lot of phone calls, typing up program descriptions, working with our marketing manager. And now there's so much done digitally. I truly, as long as we can plug in and connect, we can do our jobs for the other half of the department. So.
Well, and the great thing about that is looking at this pandemic in a crisis, how can we realign our job descriptions, where we work and how we work, but also to be more efficient? And have you found that to be the case? Because I remember working in an office, most of the time was spent with just chat time with your coworkers and about things non-related to your job. And there's nothing wrong with that because it builds relationship, but it also wastes time, work time.
Yeah. And that's where, so for Parks and Recreation, if you think about it, what we do is exist to create places and spaces for people to make memories and do things, right? The experiences. So the camaraderie part of that is, we're definitely missing it. And it's very sad for us as a team because we're people type of people. You know, we want to be with the people and we want to bring groups together and we encourage gatherings. So that's been really challenging through these times. So yes, it's hard to do team camaraderie over Zoom. We still are able to go in, and right now we're really being sensitive to the emergency order and making sure there's not, that truly only the essential people are in the offices. But yeah, I would say that's the biggest thing. And as far as what we're missing, and as for job description changes, yeah, recreation staff absolutely had to retool the most because every single program that we had plans had to be replanned 2 or 3 times, right? To make it COVID friendly or curbside or virtual. So for those staff, and I've commended them from day one, being creative and never giving up, because mentally that's a lot to constantly keep up with. But they've had to learn Zoom. They've had to learn how to host Zoom and be great video, as you know what you do every day. So they've had to take their personalities and figure out how to make them shine through the internet. And as you know, too, you've met our naturalists. All 3 of them, they led the way back in March and April, doing a lot of Facebook Lives and making videos for people. And that was never in our job description before that. So yeah, we had to retool a lot, and thank goodness every single team member, both parks and recreation, never gave up. They were never afraid to take a step forward and try something new. And I joke all the time with Heidi Russell, and you guys have had Heidi on before. She's our senior programmer. She now enjoys hosting a Zoom when she had never been on Zoom before. So it is amazing to see the strengths, different strengths now people have, 8 months, 9 months into this, that they never imagined themselves doing in this career.
Yeah, we'll be better coming out of this, but it's how we're going to be better that is going to really be the question going forward. And with that, though, you guys have had such an enormous bump in activity because people during this crisis have realized the value of the parks department here in our own backyard. You've done amazing things, but we're also going into the winter months. So we started this in March. We're coming out of it, right? So we've never really been in the middle of the crazy cold winter months. Mm-hmm. How is that going to change what you and your team are doing and how you're thinking as well?
Yeah, so we always have plans 6 months ahead of time, right? Or a year ahead of time for our activities. And I would say around August, when everyone was saying we're going to experience a second wave, we started having some really big, large brainstorming sessions. We kind of skipped over fall because we kind of had fall figured out. And we said, what is going to look like in the wintertime? And our big concern is our seniors, because they've already experienced so much isolation. And we knew this because we were having seniors come to us in August and September for some of our outdoor or curbside programs. And they were saying, this is the first time I've been out of my house since March. So we knew that we need to jump on this and figure out what are we going to be able to do for winter. And so seniors was one of our first target audience to figure out what to brainstorm. And so we started our parking lot series program. So you might have heard us talking about that through the fall. So seniors can sign up for parking lot bingo, parking lot trivia, and we have like a drive-by, take a picture with Santa and a holiday sing-along coming up. We just did a gobble gobble game on last week for Thanksgiving. So our staff has really thought outside the box. And so if you're listening and you are a senior citizen in our community, please reach out to us because we have several things planned that you can do virtually, or we're going to continue the parking lot series through the winter months.
So Kelly Hyer with us here on the Oakland County Megacast. She's the Recreation Superintendent for the West Bloomfield Parks Department. And with that, Kelly, I do worry about the seniors that still don't have computers. They still don't have internet, and they're struggling during this pandemic.
Yeah. And that's why we feel like it's important to keep the curbside elements where they check in with us. It's less than 30 seconds. So the face-to-face time is very minimal. And then they can be in their cars, and how it works is they tune into a radio station. We have a local frequency that they can listen to us talking from their cars. So that's really neat because we're also starting January 20th, all of our winter programs will be online, and we're going to add in some lectures and some more interactive things for the seniors that don't have the virtual connection or can't do Zoom, or they don't want to try Zoom. They can do our parking lot series. So that's pretty creative. We're still figuring out the details, but like I said, January 20th, that'll all be posted.
So what are you and your team members doing to try to reach out to the seniors that don't have an internet connection?
So we have our Connect membership program. So in January, when we opened up Connect, that's our local senior center for West Bloomfield. And that database it gets a newsletter sent to them and a snail mail letter through the U.S. Post Office. And so that way they know what's happening frequently with Connect in our programs. Now, if you're not a Connect member, we will still offer memberships because we're doing so much curbside and virtual. So that way they can receive the information. As far as our other family programming, I'd be happy to launch into some of our ideas that we have for winter too.
Oh, let's go into it.
Okay. So we're trying to make sure that people realize that it's okay to be outside in the winter time. We've always encouraged it. It's just a matter of making sure that you have the right clothes on, right? So make sure you find your good leggings and boots and hats and mittens and get ready to spend time outside for the winter. That's going to get us through this, the next wave here. So for December, we do have our winter solstice hikes, and those are going to be, we changed that up a little bit more COVID friendly style. So that's December 21st on winter solstice, and it's going to be in the evening. So the Civic Trail behind the recreation activity will be lit, and we'll have the naturalists on the trail. And then, of course, our dog park fobs are on sale for 2021. So if you have a dog and you want to sign up for the West Bloomfield Dog Park, registration's now open. That's a great way to get some exercise and be out in the fresh air with your fur friends. And then we also have our open hours with our naturalists, and that we've had to adapt a little bit because, again, with this emergency order, we don't want households mixing. So we're trying to make sure that everything that we do offer while we're in this pause, it's going to be, households are going to be spread out, so they're not intermixing. But our sled hills we're almost ready to be open for this last snow. So give us another couple days. We'll have our sled hills open fully. So when we do get that snow, and then at the Recreation Activity Center, you can also rent snowshoes. So that's a great activity that you can come out and do as a family.
That is a fun one. We live on the West Bloomfield Trail, and we do see so many people that take advantage of that. In fact, you had a crew out yesterday going down the trail, salting it, and making sure that it was safe for the community. Yep. It really is a blessing to have so many great parks. Yes. And the trail is beautiful for us to have. You can walk, you can run, you can snowshoe, you can ski. We've seen people ski back there.
Cross-country skiing, yep.
Exactly, yep. And you take your dogs. But with that all in our backyard, do you worry about the additional use of some of these facilities? Because you're also having to deal with a budget and an employee shortage. So how are you and your team managing all of that?
That is a great question, because that is something we experienced from day one since the shutdown. So starting in March, the trail became a highway of pedestrians using the trail. And
trust me, we know. It's been crazy this year, and not just with people, but the amount of deer.
Yes, nature.
That's our backyard.
Yeah, nature has come out of the woodwork too. I don't know if it's because it was like less traffic or less people in certain areas, right? But I've noticed their patterns have been different too. But yeah, so our park staff, they were in a big predicament because we didn't hire our seasonals fully right when the stay home order was issued. And then when we realized how busy the parks were, we tried to hire on some people and we couldn't. There was nobody out there that wanted the shifts that we had and for the rate we had posted. So we are trying to think a little smarter. Recreation staff did get cross-trained. Some of our staff did get cross-trained to park staff. So we're ready for that scenario if that's where it continues. But that, I would say, is another pride point of our team. No one's afraid to learn something new and try something new. And when they were struggling, because it was a lot of overtime and managing differently, right? Just learning how to do things differently, socially distant and with masks and less staff, and being mindful of our budget. we're kind of prepared for our strategy going into 2021. And we're also trying to open the spray park, right? So that's going to be Memorial Day. So we're going to need a team to work the spray park, and job postings will be going up shortly. So if anybody out there listening would like a seasonal position, please check out our page, because again, we are anticipating another COVID-like spring and summer. We know how to manage it a little bit better, or we have a better idea. And we do want to fill those seasonal positions for 2021.
And with that, we have so many college kids that are going to be learning remotely, even into next year. Mm-hmm. And what better job than working outdoors?
Absolutely. And, we teach a lot of life skills, because we have our training and our orientation programs includes things like communication and public speaking and conflict management when customers need to work through a situation. So yeah, Parks and Recreation is the best first job for anybody out there. Or if you are looking for a second job or perhaps retired, this is a great place to work. So there's my plug.
Well, we like that plug as well, because you guys do so much for the community, and we're so lucky to have so many of these great parks, but also the trail right here in our backyard. So thank you to you and your team for all the work that you're doing behind the scenes and pivoting to try to make this successful and reach as many people as you still can.
You're very welcome. We're here to serve, and our team again is committed and amazing. And so please reach out to us if you have a question or concern or an idea. And then the last plug, Live with Lauren, we're bringing her back. Everyone loves Mrs. A. She'll be on at Tuesday at 11 a.m. If you're thinking about a career in nature education, Lauren's a great example.
That is so great. Well, thank you so much, Kelly, for being with us here on the Oakland County Megacast. Thank you again, though, but extend our gratitude to you and your team as well for being able to shift and try to reach as many people here in the community as possible during this pandemic.
For sure. Thank you, guys.
Okay, and good luck in the winter months.
Okay, we'll take it.
We're going to take a quick break here on the Oakland County Megacast, and when we come back, we'll be speaking with the Executive Director for Detroit Goodfellows, an organization that has been doing so many great things for our community for well over 100 years. But how are they striving and thriving here in the middle of a pandemic? Can they continue on their good work? We'll be talking with the Executive Director when the Oakland County Megacast continues.
Michigan, the coronavirus pandemic has put us all to the test. And now it's time to put COVID-19 to the test. As we move forward, testing will be critical. We encourage anyone who has reason to get tested to do so, those with symptoms and those without. If you are leaving home and going back to work, get tested. If you think you may have COVID-19 or you've been exposed recently through family, friends, or coworkers, get tested. Our test locator tool can help you find the right testing site that fits your needs. Even if you're looking for easy access with no cost, no prescription, and no appointment necessary, we've got you covered. Help Michigan move forward, not backward. To find a testing site or learn more, visit michigan.gov/coronavirus test. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. Michigan, we still need to stay careful because we don't want to go backwards, back to where we started. So keep standing 6 feet apart, keep wearing a mask in public, and if you have symptoms, talk to a healthcare provider about getting tested. To move forward, let's all do our part. So stay careful. Michigan.gov/coronavirus.
We're so happy to have you with us here on the Wednesday edition of the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Ronnie Dahl here in my home studio while Mr. Tyler Keefe holds things down back in the West Bloomfield studio. We want to say thank you again to the West Bloomfield Parks Department for allowing us to live stream today's edition of the Oakland County Megacast on their Facebook page. Just as a reminder, Tyler and I are here Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. until noon. You can catch us on Civic Center TV, Birmingham Area Municipal Access, 89.3 Lakes FM, 88.1 FM The Biff. If you have cable, thank you so much, because a part of your fee does go to support local programming such as this. And you can catch us on Channel 15 if you have Comcast, Channel 99, AT&T. We are here Monday through Friday, as I said, 10 a.m. until noon. And the reason for this show is it grew out of the pandemic and trying to inform you, members of our public, about all that is happening within our community and the organizations and the newsmakers and their decision making and how they are trying to survive this pandemic. And this crisis has definitely hit so many of our nonprofits and organizations doing so much good within our community to reach as many people as they can. And to talk further about that topic, let's bring in Sari Klok-Schneider. She's the Executive Director for the Detroit Goodfellows. Your organization has been helping out kids here in the Metro Detroit area for well over 100 years. But what has this crisis been like for you and so many of your volunteers?
Well, it's been challenging for us, a lot from the fundraising end of things. We're used to doing live events. Every fall for the past 30 years, we've had a fundraising breakfast at the TCF Center where we honor a community leader. We had fully intended to do that this year, had it on the calendar for October, and we did have to cancel due to COVID. We also have a sales day, which would have been yesterday. Monday, always the Monday after Thanksgiving, where our members go out on the streets of Detroit and sell newspapers to raise funds. We unfortunately had to cancel that as well, which was the first time in over 100 years that we were not out on the street selling those papers. So it was, some of our members have been involved with this for literally decades. So they were very disappointed to not have that. But we did a virtual effort, and we actually raised over $40,000 in a couple of days with online fundraising. So the community has been very generous to the Goodfellows to ensure that those Goodfellow packages get delivered this year.
It has been such an annual tradition in the city of Detroit to see you and your volunteers on the corners selling those newspapers. When you had to make that announcement that it wasn't going to happen this year, what was that like?
It was very disappointing. Like I said, we have some extremely dedicated members who have been selling papers on the streets of Detroit for decades. And our founder, actually, James J. Brady, has family members now who followed in his footsteps and continued serving the Goodfellows. And they had the Brady Corner, which is at the Penobscot building downtown. We actually have like 4 generations of the Brady family that have been selling at that location since 1914. So it was definitely a blow. But we know we'll be back out there next year, and we concentrated on virtual fundraising this year to make up those funds.
For those, and I probably should have started off with this, I'm sorry, I'm just so familiar with your organization, but for those that don't know what you and your team members do you want to fill us in, give us some background into the organization?
Sure. We've been around for, like you said, over 100 years, founded in 1914 by a gentleman named James J. Brady. And he was inspired by a cartoon he saw in the Detroit News of a very successful businessman holding the hand of a young child. And the point of the cartoon was that this man was giving back to the children. And no child is forgotten at Christmas time. So on that first sales day over 100 years ago, Mr. Brady gathered up some of his colleagues and friends who had sold papers when they were children. They went to their old corners and sold those papers. They raised a couple $1,000s, used that money to buy gifts for local children in need that first Christmas. It's evolved through the years. The Goodfellows partners with Detroit Police Department. That's our primary partner for many, many years, decades. Goodfellow members and police officers would hand deliver the packages to the homes of the children. We've gotten quite large now. We can't do that anymore. This holiday season, we'll distribute 30,000 packages to children in 6 communities: Detroit, Highland Park, Hamtramck, River Rouge, Harper Woods, and Ecorse, for children between the ages of 4 and 13. And the families actually come to us. We have different distribution centers around the city, and the police are there working with our Goodfellow members to hand out the boxes. So it's a long-term partnership.
But so many things in these boxes are really the basic essentials. This year, the need must be greater than ever.
It is. We've definitely received a lot more applications this year online. We have 30,000 packages, and 30,000 kids signed up for those packages. Like you said, there's a lot of great stuff in there. It's a combination of practical items like warm winter clothing, hats, gloves, warm winter socks, sweatpants, sweatshirts, underwear. And then we figure that's for the moms. They're always very happy to get that for their children. And then the packages contain books that are age appropriate for each age group, toys, candy, games, a dental kit. The components of that kit are donated to us by Delta Dental Foundation every year. It's a really terrific package.
Sari Klok-Schneider with us here on the Oakland County Megacast. She's the Executive Director for Detroit Goodfellows. How do you pick and choose which family you grace with your donations?
The families come to us. They have to apply for the program. We work with the school districts that we are serving. Any family who received a package the previous year, we contact that family to see if they're still interested in receiving one. So it's a cycle that continues every year, but we rely on the police officers, the teachers, people in the buildings, and that this year, of course, that's changed a little bit because they're not all the schools are in the building. But we've done very well with our online application. That's really, really helped. And this is the first year we received over 4,000 applications online, which was helpful to us and helpful to the families too. They could just fill it in on their phone or on their computer. So that made a big difference.
And with that, Sari, can you talk a little bit more about the fundraising efforts? You said you went virtual. Has it been more successful than standing out on the street corners?
It's been equally successful, I would say, to our great surprise, honestly. We have been out there for so long, and we were really forced to try something different. And we've upgraded our website. We have Instagram now and Twitter. So we're trying to really reach out to a younger group and a younger group of supporters who are more comfortable making donations online or through Facebook. So we were pleasantly surprised at how well we did. It's not the same as the in-person, but it's still nice to know that we can rely on the internet to help us raise the funds we need.
And one of the things I think during COVID-19 and this crisis is everyone has had to shift how they think and how they operate. So coming out of this pandemic, what do you think is going to be the positive for the Detroit Goodfellows that will follow through and that you'll carry with you post-pandemic if we ever get there?
Oh, well, let's hope.
Right?
I think we all want to be on the other side of this. But I think it is the online, the virtual stuff that we have an older membership, and we've been doing things the same way for a very long time. We honestly were just forced to make a change. And again, we're pleasantly surprised at how well these things did. We have established a new young persons group called Next Gen that we ask a $10 donation a year and 10 hours of community service. And that's an age 19 to 29. So those young people have helped us along with our advertising and PR team to make our virtual presence a lot stronger out there. And we've done very, very well. Facebook fundraisers, hugely successful. So I think we will continue that post-pandemic. And hopefully we made the ability for our families to get in touch with us via email and applying online, that's made it easier for them as well, which is great.
So Sari, I'm trying to think back at some of those conversations because I always say I need a 12 or a 14-year-old in my life just to be able to help me navigate this technology. And I don't know how many different conversations with my niece and nephew at the Sunday dinner of them trying to teach me Snapchat. So I'm trying to think of what these conversations were like for you and your team members who maybe don't even realize Snapchat exists. Forget TikTok.
Yes, right. Forget TikTok. Yeah, no, I have a 21-year-old who's helped me tremendously, and I do use Snapchat, challenging as it may be. We actually ask our members, if they're not going to do it themselves, to have their children and their grandchildren do it. So the more we can have, the next generation supporting us in that way, the better.
And do you think that's one of the beautiful things to come out of this is it really is forcing those conversations for the older generation and the younger generation to come together and to try to understand one another?
Yes, absolutely. 100%. It really has. And we have an age range now of members from 19 to 90. And I think the 90-year-olds can appreciate what they're learning from the 20-year-olds in terms of, wow, Facebook, it's not that hard. You can actually go on there and raise money, and you get to watch the little thing go up to show your goal is 500 and you're at 450. You just need a little bit more to get there. So very, very positive.
Sari Klok-Schneider with us on the Oakland County Megacast. She is the Executive Director of the Detroit Goodfellows, joining us today on the program. And Sari, as we're getting further into the holiday season, as we're approaching the time where these gift packages would be provided to these families and to these children, many organizations that are doing charitable work and helping people in our communities this particular year are looking more for donations than physical items. Is that the case with Detroit Goodfellows? Are they looking more for monetary donations, or are they also seeking this year, even more than before, those physical items like the clothing, the socks, the essential items such as jackets, dental kits, and that kind of stuff as well?
We actually just take monetary donations because we make such a very large quantity of packages, the 30,000. Each age and gender receives the same items in their package. So, for example, a 6-year-old girl would get a brand new pair of sweatpants, a brand new sweatshirt, brand new winter hat, brand new mittens. So we use the funds that we raise to buy these items and package them up for the children.
With that, Sari, talking about the future, where do you see, can the Goodfellows continue for the next 100 years? And how do you see you developing and evolving in this new world?
That's a very good question. And I think we have learned from the pandemic the hard way, how to really look to different ways to raise money, different ways to reach out to people in the absence of having children in the building, in the absence of being able to have an in-person fundraiser. So I think that it's for us, we need the young people, we need the young supporters, and we need the young members to follow in the footsteps of the people who have been doing this for so many years and embrace it and make sure that the kids of tomorrow get a package too. So I think the youth and virtual fundraising are our new best friends moving forward.
I love that. How long have you been involved in the organization?
I'm the only paid person, actually. The rest is volunteers, and I have been with them for 23 years now. So I do love this organization and what they do for the kids. It's really, really heartwarming, and a lot of people that are involved, like I said, have been involved forever, and I just respect how much they devote their time and their energy and their love to this organization.
One of the things is when you volunteer or you work for an organization such as this, it changes you as a person. How has it changed you in seeing the need and the appreciation from the community for what you and the team members are doing?
You know, I just think I've gained a lot of respect. The people that give back, the volunteers that give so much back to the community. We have people that have been with us for decades, and they are there no matter what, rain, snow, sleet, hail, out there selling papers, out there helping at the distribution centers, helping to pick the items that go into the package, devoting countless hours, not just at Christmas time, but the whole year long, to make sure that this need is met and these kids have a happy Christmas. It's very heartwarming. I feel very privileged to work for this organization, truly.
Oh, that is so great, because we do tend to think of the Goodfellows and just at Christmas time, but you do so much more year round. Quickly, if people want to donate or they want to get involved, how can they do that?
The best way to reach us is to go on our website at detroitgoodfellows.org, and any questions you have, you can contact us through the site or give us a call at 586-775-6139, and we'll be happy to answer any questions.
Well, Sari, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate you and your team members and everything that you're doing for the community and all of the smiles that you're putting on the kids here in the greater Michigan, Southeast Michigan area. Thank you for your time and your effort.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
We are going to take a quick break here on the Oakland County Megacast, but just as a reminder, you are listening to 89.3 WBLD Orchard Lake, 88.1 WBFH Bloomfield Hills.
Hi, my name is Kurt Lawson, and I'm the Public Information Officer for West Bloomfield Township. We wanted to reach out to you, our older adults, to provide information that you may find useful during this difficult time. We want to ensure you that West Bloomfield Town Hall, our Waters and Utility Department, West Bloomfield Parks, and our police and fire departments continue to work hard on your behalf. Information and resources can be found on the Township website, the police Facebook and Twitter, or call West Bloomfield Parks COVID-19 Help Hotline. Please remember to keep your social distance of at least 6 feet, wear facial coverings when you leave your home, and wash your hands for at least 20 seconds with soap. These precautions will help keep you safe during these difficult times.
This may seem uncomfortable, but so is being hooked to an IV, sleeping in a hospital bed, and fighting for your life. When it comes to COVID-19, comfort is not as important as saving lives. Wearing a mask can greatly reduce the chance of spreading the virus. So mask up, Michigan, every time you leave home.
Thank you, Lawrence.
Great to have you tune in with us here on the Wednesday edition of the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Ronnie Dahl here in my home studios, while Mr. Tyler Keith, our tech wizard, holds down the fort back at the studios there in West Bloomfield. Tyler, you are definitely such a huge asset to the team. You are really a tech wizard. Did you know that?
I did not know that. I was not aware I was a wizard of the technology here, but I appreciate it.
I'm going to get you a shirt that says Tech Wizard.
Very nice. I appreciate that.
Well, it's great to have everyone tune in with us here for the second hour of the Oakland County Megacast. And just as a reminder, Tyler and I are here Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. until noon. You can catch us on Civic Center TV, Birmingham Area Municipal Access. If you have cable, tune in to Channel 15 on Comcast, Channel 99 on AT&T. If you're out driving around, you can tune in on your radio, 89.3 Lakes FM, 88.1 FM, The Biff. And continuing into our second hour here on the Oakland County Megacast, this has been an incredibly hard time for so many of our small businesses. We just came off of the Saturday shopping momentum to try to get people to shop our small businesses. But this is not like any other year. This is a program and an effort that needs to extend beyond Saturdays, because so many of our small businesses are really struggling to stay alive. And joining us now to continue this conversation is April Ogg. She is with Saginaw Street Consignments there in the city of Pontiac, April, always great to have you with us here on the Oakland County Megacast.
Thanks, Ronnie, for having me.
So I'm really, I love the thought of consignments, because one thing during the pandemic, I think so many people are realizing they have way too much stuff in their house.
Yes.
But has that been a benefit for you or not as a consignment shop?
Well, it's always a benefit. I have people reaching out daily still since the pandemic and trying to either downsize, or they find that their children are not interested in, grandchildren are not interested in their sets of china, their collectibles, their figurines, or their furniture. So they all are trying to downsize and find new homes for their furniture and wares, yes.
So as a consignment shop, how has this world changed during COVID-19 and how you're operating your day-to-day business?
The biggest thing is still trying to reach out, of course, and the marketing aspect of letting people know that I am open and that it's safe to come in and shop. If they're not comfortable being here with other shoppers, I'm more than happy to set appointments up. And I try to reach out and let people know that if they have a girlfriend, they want to come in on an evening after work, that they're working, and take a few hours and stroll along, that's available.
So you're having to work double the hours then, I would imagine, because you're a small team. It's basically you.
Yeah, it is. And so I struggle to try to manage and advertise and input and be here. But I do a lot of internet and web sales on my eBay store. So I am constantly here uploading things to the internet to reach out outside of Michigan.
With that, knowing that, what's it been like for you to have to adapt to the cyber world?
Adapting, to me, still some of the social media is more of a struggle, but adapting, I found that eBay works very well for me. There's plenty of internet type sites out there to sell items that are already set up. So if you don't have a website, there are these social type media venues to sell. But so gratefully, I started my eBay store about 3 years ago. So I've managed to promote that, and I have a following on it, and I have anywhere from 300 to 500 items on my eBay store at all times. So without that, I would have definitely been a dead in the water here. Yes.
And do you worry, April Ogg with us here on the Oakland County Megacast. She's with Saginaw Street Consignments in the city of Pontiac. Do you worry if we go into another complete shutdown that you maybe won't survive?
I'm barely surviving now. Since the onset of this in even back to February, March, is when I would get, we all have in retail our slower months and then our heavier months. But since March, April, really, I saw my sales go down over 75%, down to zero. And I'm only back up maybe 25% of what I'm doing. So another shutdown would be traumatic for any small business, any business at all. Through some of the social media like Facebook, Marketplace is another venue to sell items. A lot of people sell their own items or reach out to people locally to sell. And even when we were shut down, Facebook shut down Marketplace. So we couldn't even sell through that. So I only had the eBay venue, which also went down tremendously.
Wow. So I never realized that Facebook shut down Marketplace.
When Michigan shut down, Facebook shut down. And now it might have done that prior, but it was definitely, it was just completely shut.
Wow.
Yes.
And so with that, you're a small business owner, and we tried to put a face on this pandemic. and what people such as yourself are really going through on the front lines, because we hear our politicians talk and they'll offer some of these grants and these loans. Have you been able to take advantage of them, and what's that process been like?
I did. I was on top of that in the beginning. Actually, oddly enough, in February, I reached out to my credit card companies and my mortgage company. And on the onset, when I saw this, and just started calling people to find out what was going on. So gratefully, I've also been in touch with the Oakland County One-Stop Business Shop. So I started reaching out there and found out that there were going to be these grants coming through the pipeline and when they were coming out. So I did, and was fortunate enough to receive through Oakland County a small grant through that was distributed through each community. And then a second one came through the Small Business Association.
What was that process like, though, to actually go through it? Like, to see it post, hey, this is going to become available.
It was kind of, well, it wasn't like you could really talk to anyone. So you kind of filled out an application online. I was grateful that it was kind of weird because you're putting out certain information and you're wondering if this is really the site to put it on. And then with the SBA, it was like, okay, you're going to give us your bank account number and it's just going to automatically show up in your account. So that was kind of scary. And I called my bank about that to find out if this is, the real site or not. So really it was trying to keep above, and with so many scammers out there and trying to take advantage of older people. I mean, I kind of felt I was very hesitant at some of these, making sure that I had the right site and was giving the proper information. So it's very scary. Yes.
Yeah, and that's great. That's one angle of the story we haven't heard anyone really talk about, is being concerned about giving that information. Because like you said, you don't know. And they say, don't give it over the web, but here you're being forced to do that. With that, April, hey, you mentioned the importance of social media and places like Marketplace and eBay, but has it also made it more difficult for you because so many individuals are now using that as well?
With the Facebook Marketplace, it has, I saw about a year and a half ago, my sales actually go down, and not just the sales, because I have different the product that I get and a lot of the furnishings that I get from people, or that I also offer to receive and sell for them, are really nice quality pieces. And so this is how I make my living, and I try to do the best for my customers that give me items to sell for them. So in a marketplace, traditionally you have someone that's already replaced or has ordered to replace an item in their home. And so they're really looking for someone to pretty much come and pick it up and do the work for them. So they're not really looking to maybe make a living at all off of it, or maybe just make a few bucks on their efforts of having it for as long as they had it, or even just to have somebody come and pick it up. So it's kind of brought pricing down in that aspect. So you have to definitely be creative of where you post things. And there are a lot of the Facebook sites, marketplace sites, that, as you know, they are put up by an individual. So I can only post as myself. I can't really go and post as a business on those sites.
So with that though, April, if someone is looking for an extra few dollars to make some cash out of the chaos in their home, because I think a lot of people are trying to clear out stuff right now, when should they pick to go with a business such as yourself versus just trying to post it themselves?
Well, I think the people that are calling me are that are looking for someone that's in the professional field of handling their item. They don't want to deal with the public. They are professional or corporate people that don't have the time or the effort, or they don't want to deal with the public. And so they would prefer their items go somewhere and have someone else handle that. And because I will also take their items in and hold it longer than what they're willing to. Maybe they don't have room for their item anymore, or maybe they sold their home and they can't take it with them.
Yeah, I think people also don't realize what goes into trying to sell some of these things online for yourself, because these websites have exploded over the last 5 years. You have Poshmark, you have so many of them, Facebook
Cherish,
Marketplace, right? And so there are so many, but people, it's like it can become a full-time job. Like, you don't just take a picture and post it. You have to be very descriptive. So that to me is really where the work comes in.
Yes, it is a full-time job. There's probably 4 full-time jobs here that I'm doing as one person. Yes.
So with that, a small business owner, being very small, being yourself, what advice do you give to other business owners on trying to survive this?
I think what I find the best is, like, let's just stick together and support each other and like each other's Facebook page, or go on and promote. I have people calling me that I don't take clothing or certain things, shoes and stuff. So I always have cards of other businesses that do take that, and I try to promote and let people know to call other venues around in the city to do that. So I think that's really, going back to the arts and crafts period and supporting small business and supporting artists and keeping the money at home.
So April, just another minute or two with you here on the Oakland County Megacast, and knowing that, I think it's great that you're trying to support other small businesses as well. What's it been like? You've been a longtime resident there in the city of Pontiac. Downtown Pontiac is going through a change right now. What has it been like for you as a business owner in the city of Pontiac?
I grew up in Pontiac. Actually, my family's had their business here. So Pontiac chose me. I didn't choose Pontiac. So I've seen it through the decades, their highs and their lows, when we had Habitat here with the glass gallery. And then we had finally having small little shops, maybe 4 years ago, come in and people come in and buy some of the buildings and actually put money into the buildings and try to bring business. It's just, it for some reason has always been a struggle down here. And I don't know what is going to get it through, but trying to allow new business, small business to come in, let the people manage their buildings, get them open, get the people in here, the businesses licensing could be a little bit easier. So just some of those things. We have a lot of empty spots right now. So it would be nice to see this, a little bit of this arts and crafts and gallery and retail happen again. Yes.
Yeah, small businesses really are the backbone of our community, but they also offer the opportunity to provide very unique items. And with that, before we let you go, do you want to talk a little bit about your shop? And if people want to visit it, what types of items can they find there?
So yes, I have on my website, SaginawSTConsignments.com, I post my regular hours that I'm here. And I'm also here most other days. Like on Sunday, I'm here at least about 5 hours every Sunday doing some different things, or evenings, trying to update the website or post things on eBay. So you can always make an appointment if you can't make it on the hours that I post on my site. I have everything from furniture. I get a lot of people that call with specific types of things. They want something for their TV to put on. They want mid-century modern. I have beautiful sets of china. I have a beautiful tabletop. So if you're a new bride or you have a daughter getting married, I have gorgeous sets of china and tabletop. I have flatware sets. I have beautiful antique glass that you can put candy, homemade cookies for Christmas and give it to a friend for Christmas. So I have a variety of collectibles, beautiful armoires, and artwork. I have a lot of original artwork. I have a variety of types of artwork. So I have African American artwork. I have mid-century modern artwork. I have some nice Latin artwork that came in. So I get all types of styles, and I don't really try to promote one or the other, but I promote what is best for the customer asking me for something and what their needs are. And that really comes from my interior design background. So that's kind of how I got started in this, actually. And I try to make sure that the item is good for the person and fits their needs.
I always feel like when you get something from a consignment store, though, it means more because it has a story behind it.
Yeah, yes, they do. And I always try to find out a little bit from the family or the person bringing the item in. If it was maybe an heirloom or something was given to them, or a little bit of background. And it's always fun. I find, I'm intrigued by learning more. Like as soon as I think I know everything about Depression vintage glass, I find there's a whole nother type of glass, Westmoreland, that I didn't know all the different types of varieties that they had. So yes, there's always a lot of research that I do and learning, and that's part of the fun. And I think that's where I get my, I just love doing it, and I'm hooked for sure.
Well, we are going into the holiday shopping season. If you are thinking about a unique gift for someone that you love, please take the time to visit some of our consignment shops and our small businesses. Saginaw Street Consignments, located right there in downtown Pontiac. April, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Ronnie, for having me. I appreciate it.
We're going to take a quick break here on the Oakland County Megacast, and when we come back, we'll switch the conversation up just a bit, and we are going to be speaking with the superintendent for the Royal Oak School District. That's when the Oakland County Megacast continues.
As rivals, we don't always see eye to eye.
Like who scored the best recruits?
Who's gonna be who?
And whether we wear green
Or blue. But one thing we can all agree on, to help stop the spread of COVID-19, wear a mask.
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 The ball's in your court, Michigan.
Michigan, the coronavirus pandemic has put us all to the test. And now it's time to put COVID-19 to the test. As we move forward, testing will be critical. We encourage anyone who has reason to get tested to do so, those with symptoms and those without. If you are leaving home and going back to work, get tested. If you think you may have COVID-19 or you've been exposed recently through family, friends, or coworkers, get tested. Our test locator tool can help you find the right testing site that fits your needs. Even if you're looking for easy access with no cost, no prescription, and no appointment necessary, we've got you covered. Help Michigan move forward, not backward. To find a testing site or learn more, visit michigan.gov/coronavirus test. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Appreciate you tuning in to the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Ronnie Dahl here in my home studios while the one, the only Mr. Tyler Keith holds things down back in our studio in West Bloomfield. To say the least, I think our school districts have really had to struggle and shift and pivot and every other word you could think of during COVID-19 and this crisis starting way back in March. More than 8 months into this crisis, and they are still having to navigate it on a day-to-day basis. It is not an easy job. And to talk a little bit more about that, We are excited to bring in Mary Beth Fitzpatrick. She is the superintendent of the schools for Royal Oak Schools. Thank you so much for being with us here on the Oakland County Megacast.
Yes, good morning. Thank you for having me.
I think about this. I'm like, you like a plan. You have a plan, but you put the plan in place and then the plan goes out the window. What has this been like for you and your leadership team?
Well, we certainly know how to do in-person and face-to-face instruction, and on occasion we were remote when we needed to be. We think back to the 1920 school year. We had a great kickoff from September through March. Things were on schedule, on plan, as you said. And then we all reacted. Our entire community, our nation, our world reacted to this virus. And so schools had to do that as well. The abrupt shutdown in March was something very new for us. Again, we know in-person instruction, and we had to move to all remote pretty quickly. But we were also facing some real emotional challenges, face-to-face instruction, connections with teachers, peers, sports, and clubs and activities for kids are so important in their lives. And all of that ended as well for us. So we were trying to recreate things as we were going along, and then certainly to have a statewide shutdown was something very new for us to react to as well. We were worried about equity for our students, all the things that they rely upon the schools to provide to them day to day, and for families to get from the schools was now missing. So how do we get those things out safely to our families and to our students? And so we had to shift pretty quickly and then become really creative. We had seniors leaving high school for the last time. We had kids that are moving up to middle school and from kindergarten to first grade. How do you create all those experiences in a remote fashion that typically we were doing face-to-face? And then we've certainly learned a lot about being medical advisors and reacting to health advice from our health department and our state and local leaders. So that was just a really busy spring for us. And we know the decisions aren't easy and we don't please everyone all the time, but I'm with my colleagues. We are certainly doing our best for our communities, as much as we could.
Yeah, I think a lot of the parents and community members don't understand or realize how many hours behind the scenes that superintendents and members of the school districts and their employees are putting in behind the scenes to try to navigate this.
Yeah, so we shifted instruction, which means our tools, our supplies. On Friday, March 13th, we closed our doors in the district and we did not reopen for the rest of the school year to what we knew as kind of a normal school year. So we knew the books, the materials, you think about hands-on lessons in science, everything is in the schools. How do you get that to families? How do you recreate lessons in a meaningful way? Using what families might have at home, and if they don't, how do we get those items to them? And I applaud my staff, my administrative team, all the teachers and support staff, because we really had a lot of work to do. We had to continue educating our students in the spring all the way through the end of the school year in June. And we're always looking forward to that next decision. What will summer look like? Because we usually run programs and camps and summer school. And then while we're doing that, we have to think about September and launching a school year that's new. And so it's a continuous, planning stage that we're in. We're always making plans and trying to tweak them. And then listening to our community. We have parents that continue to work. We have frontline workers, families that are, have those members of their home that live in their homes that maybe couldn't have their kids come to school at all. And they wanted remote full-time no matter what the school district did. So we knew we were running 3 programs at the same time, a face-to-face for those who come, a hybrid maybe for those that just want to come some of the days or part of the time, and then fully remote for those that wanted to or needed to stay home. We have medically fragile students who can't come to school due to, their own health conditions. So we have to provide their education at home or in a remote way. But really our staff has stepped up and adjusted so well. And then, you want to also take care of your kids, their emotional and social well-being, and try to stay in tune and do all of that through computers and phone calls and letters home. So again, yes, it's been hours and hours of work, and it doesn't stop because you're always looking to what's next and what might come up for schools next.
So in March, it was a shock. You've had months to try to plan, but yet your plans keep getting disrupted with these new outbreaks and these new protocols. Do you think that in the next year, you're going to return to a classroom that was pre-pandemic at all?
So I think we will. I think we've been watching other schools, other entities. We've certainly watched the restaurant industry, the entertainment industry. You know, they've all reacted to these changes and shifts, and the schools have as well. In Royal Oak schools, we never had an opportunity to be back with students. We had a plan to reopen after the first quarter of the school year here in November, and that didn't happen due to just the surge in cases and the, all the data going in actually the wrong direction from a health perspective. And so what we do know is when we can open again, we're ready. We always knew and know how to do face-to-face instruction really well. And now we know how to do remote instruction really well, and we have those things, in place. So I think anything that we need to react to, our next timeline item would be looking forward to coming back after the end of this semester. So in January, late January, we'll be ready. And I think our staff, again, has reacted really well. They support their students. I've been able to do walkthroughs virtually. I visit classrooms via Zoom and other tools online to watch the kids on the screen with their teacher. And that's the most exciting part of a school year, the school visits.
The teachers have been amazing at how they've been able to try to adapt their lesson plan to a virtual reality. But on top of that, at the end of the day, your budget is based on how many kids you have in the seats, how many kids are enrolled. Are you worried that coming out of this pandemic, a lot of those kids are going to have left for good?
So we've had some students leave the district, but not as many as you might think. I think because we've been able to offer so many options to our families for either remote instruction, if that's where they wanted to stay, or face-to-face when we're able to reopen again, our families have stayed here. It's an amazing community. There's a lot of community support for our families and for our students. And so I think if we continue to offer a variety of options for our families, then they will be here. They love this community. They want to stay here. We also have families that join our district schools of choice from other cities and areas around Oakland County. They're staying. They want to be here. It does go back to the relationships that they've built. They've built them with their friends, their kids' classmates, their teachers, and they want to stay with that. So if we can continue to provide them with the type of learning their child needs and the resources to do it, then we can continue providing that awesome education and instruction here in Royal Oak.
Mary Beth Fitzpatrick with us here on the Oakland County Megacast. She's the superintendent of schools for Royal Oak Schools. And knowing that, do you think there's a positive for your school district that will come out of this crisis?
Well, I've read it, in the social media and out in other media that, wow, it's really tough to be a teacher. And schools work hard and teachers work hard and their administrators. And you hear parents jokingly and then sometimes just out of frustration say, look, I'm not a kindergarten teacher. I don't know how to teach physics in high school, but I'm learning. And I think it's just another reminder to everyone of how hard our teachers work and how much they do for their students. And really how much a school district is at the center of a community. We've provided meal service to our families throughout this crisis. We've sent over 2,500 Chromebooks out into the community. We've had literally thousands of meals distributed on a daily basis to families. And when we could, we had some athletics going on. We had some contests that we were able to hold safely. And we're doing some virtual things with our choirs and our bands. And those are the things that make a community so special, and being able to still do that for our families has been a good thing. I think if we learn anything out of this, it's just how absolutely flexible you can be serving over 5,000 students at the same time. Every decision has a great impact, so you have to really think through on the receiving end how an individual family will respond to those decisions. And so they're not easy, and we try to keep as many families in mind as we can, but we're just learning to be pretty flexible.
I will say, and I've said it once, I'll say it 1,000 times, I'm so happy I'm only a pet parent, because my kid would have to learn cursive writing. I don't know if you still teach that, but that new 5th grade math, oh, heck no, it's long division, carry the one.
Right. Goes into her division, all those good terms we all learned back in the day. But so our teachers also were creating self-help materials for parents online. Our technology department had to do how-to videos, how to troubleshoot your device at home. We're used to 9 school buildings in our district, and instead we're looking at, almost 4,000 families out in the community that need tech help now and then. So we're really just turning our operations inside out, to do as much as we can for our community.
Yeah, so the parents were going back to school in a way as well.
Exactly, yes.
And with that, going forward, what do you think is going to be the long-term impact this is going to have on so many of these kids?
Kids are resilient. We all worry about them. I have 2 children myself who are out of school now and in the workforce, but the kids are more resilient sometimes than adults are, and they learn. So at first in the spring, people were worried about masks or no masks and how kids will do it. And now it's just routine. It's what you do. And I think for us in schools, the kids will now be more flexible moving in and out of a learning format that we might need to do. I also think we're going to have to think about some of the things that we used to do in schools and whether or not those are still the best way to do things. So as an example, we had school supplies in bins in the middle of a table, and everyone around that table, 6, 8 kids, would share markers and crayons and touch things, and we cleaned them, but they were certainly safely shared. Now we're doing things like supply kits just for individual students. We had 2 Royal Oak High School students who had a drive in the community, Kits for Kids, and they provided our kindergarten students with their own set of materials so they're not touching anyone else's markers and erasers and pencils. And maybe that's just the way we're going to need to do things now. There won't be as much sharing going on. Our custodians have always been wonderful for our district, cleaning and keeping things tidy and up to date. That has taken on a completely new level now from a medical point of view about sanitization and types of materials we use, ventilation. So in many ways, I think we'll shift and change, but it'll be for the better.
Are there any talks in the works right now to maybe address some of the students that haven't been able to keep up with the remote learning? Maybe they lost a grade during all of this. What do you think is going to happen for those students? Because we all learn differently. Some people are great at remote learning, others are not. And so there could be kids being left behind.
So we have always done a good job of assessing our students throughout learning. There's the major assessments that about, probably in the press, but the M-STEP test that's given by the state of Michigan. Well, we didn't take that. But locally, we have assessments that our teachers give routinely, and really those are most meaningful because they give us data about specific students of need. All our students in special education have their general education resources, and they have an individualized educational plan. And in that plan, it meets students' needs, and we're constantly looking at them as individuals and what they need to be successful. So I think we're pretty consistent in doing that in our district, and we haven't stopped, even though we're not face-to-face with students, and we'll adjust. We took our summer school program and made it free in the last 2 summers, actually, for students of need. So if students had any gaps in their learning, we were offering free summer school, and we did that this summer, and I think our enrollment was over 400 students logged on to take advantage of using resources in the district over the summer, free of charge to families, just to keep them as current as we can. And then again, it goes back to the teachers in the classrooms. They know their students, they know where they should be, they know what they might have missed, and they're working really hard to do. So we in our meetings do face-to-face whole group, and then we do these really cool breakout rooms. Our kids know how to do that. They go in small groups and do math and reading and other lessons. So pretty impressive, but we definitely know that not being face-to-face may cause some challenges in learning, and we're just going to continue to assess those and meet those needs.
Yeah, I think some of the kids are, let's just say they're a little bit more tech savvy than the rest of us. I'm always like, I need a 12-year-old around. So they probably, I think some teachers have realized that during this time as well.
Right. You see the kids online, they'll say to their friend, hey, you're on mute, or, I can't see, move your camera, and they're talking to each other, and they sign off and sign on. They use the chat function. They copy links. I mean, just a new way of doing things, and it's pretty impressive.
Well, with that, Mary Beth Fitzpatrick, she's the superintendent for schools there in Royal Oak. Before we let you go, anything I didn't ask that maybe you want to touch on before we let you go?
Really just a thank you to our Royal Oak community. We have great organizations here, our Royal Oak Schools Foundation, the youth assistants, our local PTAs. We couldn't do this without our parents and their help. And then certainly other organizations out in our community like the Salvation Army and the Metro Detroit youth clubs. They all provide different levels of service to our families that go to our school district or just live in the Royal Oak community. So we're not in this alone. Sometimes it does feel like we're making decisions on our own and taking as much feedback as we can, but certainly we could not do it without the support of our parents and the other organizations in the city. So we're very grateful in the school district for their help.
Yeah, this crisis has definitely taught us about communication and collaboration.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it, and we wish you and your team happy holidays going forward in the month of December.
Well, thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
We're going to take a quick break here on the Oakland County Megacast, and when we come back, we'll shift the focus just a little bit and talk about the health industry and for students going in to the healthcare industry. What will this pandemic mean for them? This is the Oakland County Megacast.
Hi, I'm Dr. Faust, the Medical Director for the Oakland County Health Division. The most important thing you can do to prevent the spread of illness is to wash your hands thoroughly and often. Follow these 6 easy steps every time you wash your hands. Step 1, turn on the sink and wet your hands with warm water. Step 2, apply soap to your hands and lather between your fingers, under your nails, and the front and back of your hands and wrists. Step 3, wash your hands by scrubbing them together for at least 20 seconds. Step 4, rinse your hands with warm, clean water. And step 5, dry your hands with a clean cloth towel, a paper towel, or hot air blow dryer. If you're using a cloth towel, make sure to change it often. For handheld faucets, turn off the water using a paper towel instead of your bare hand. Step 6, if you're using a paper towel, throw it away. Practice healthy habits like washing your hands after coughing or sneezing into them to keep you and others healthy. Go to oakgov.com/health or call Nurse on Call at 1-800-848-5533 to learn more.
Michigan, the coronavirus pandemic has put us all to the test. And now it's time to put COVID-19 to the test. As we move forward, testing will be critical. We encourage anyone who has reason to get tested to do so, those with symptoms and those without. If you are leaving home and going back to work, get tested. If you think you may have COVID-19 or you've been exposed recently through family, friends, or coworkers, get tested. Our test locator tool can help you find the right testing site that fits your needs. Even if you're looking for easy access with no cost, no prescription, and no appointment necessary, we've got you covered. Help Michigan move forward, not backward. To find a testing site or learn more, visit michigan.gov/coronavirus test. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
The COVID-19 crisis has definitely changed the way all of us are living, but it has not stopped what we are doing and how we are living our lives, especially for so many students, because education has to go on, life has to go on. But these are trying times for educators as well as students. And with that, let's talk a little bit more about the world of healthcare. And to dig a little deeper into this topic, we are going to bring in Dr. Dwayne Mesbah. He is the Dean for the Oakland University William Beaumont School of Medicine. Great to have you with us here, Doctor, on the Oakland County Megacast.
Good morning. Thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here.
You know, and I remember back when it was big news when they were even opening up the School of Medicine there at Oakland University. It wasn't that long ago.
No, it really wasn't. It's a little over 12 years ago that the concept began. And once we got the school started, we graduated our first class in 2015. We started with a class of 50 students and gradually increased to 75 to 100, and we're now at 125 students, and with a total class enrollment in the entire school of 500 students.
Wow. So do you think the pandemic is actually going to increase the interest for some of these students to go into the area of medicine?
I have no question that it does. If I just look at our own statistics now, again, we are a growing school, but this year we will hit over 8,000 applications for 125 seats in our school. So it's extremely competitive, and that's from coast to coast. And thinking about that, it's a big challenge for us to get through all of those applications and find the right 125 students to come join us in our community.
And on top of that, so you're trying to navigate that process of accepting these students, but on top of that, once they get into the classroom, how are you teaching these students in this world of COVID-19 and the crisis, because it's all virtual pretty much?
Yes, it is. But I also look at it as not only challenges, but they are opportunities. And I really think that when we look back on all the things that we did to get us through this pandemic, we're going to find that our school is a far better school today. And some of the unique things that we're now creating. We're very fortunate that the founding fathers of the school, Dean Bob Folberg, who started as the founding dean, they started to record the lectures from the very beginning. So not like we had a crystal ball knowing that we would use these someday, but our library is pretty extensive. So if we want to look on a topic, we probably have 4 or 5 or 6 pre-recorded lectures on a specific topic. So when it came time for us back in February and March to have to switch over to all virtual, it really wasn't that difficult. So we had everything recorded in the past. We still give live lectures today in a recorded fashion so the students can hear them synchronously or asynchronously. So we've always had it available for our students to be able to go back and look at a lecture at their convenience. And if they may have missed a class or they missed concepts that they heard in class, they have the ability to go back and listen to not only that lecture, but previous lectures as well. So it's allowed us to do that. On the other hand, so that's the first 2 years. In the third and fourth years, we had to make some difficult decisions back in March as well. When there was a challenge of having enough personal protective equipment, the PPE, and the challenges that our volumes were shifting to more COVID patients versus routine sort of surgery and patients that we would see, we pulled our students off the clinical units for almost 6 to 8 weeks. We waited until we understood this disease a little bit better and had adequate PPE before we could put our students back in the units. But at the same time, we came up with novel ways of teaching. This offered us an opportunity to come up with a new elective in COVID and understanding pandemics and infectious disease. Things that previous classes really didn't have because that experience didn't make itself available. So we were able to pull those things, and our professors responded very quickly to creating new opportunities for the students. You have to think about, okay, in the third and fourth years, we have surgery and emergency medicine and internal medicine. How do you examine a patient remotely? There's only so much you can do. So for each of those clinical rotations, we use the term, we deconstructed those rotations down to didactics and to ways that we could actually examine patients virtually. So I think it gave us, again, an opportunity to expand into the areas of telehealth. That wasn't such a large focus 2 or 3 years ago in our curriculum. I can never see us going back without it now going forward. So we've changed medicine. We've changed things we're going to include in our curriculum, all because the pandemic has offered those opportunities to us.
I do think there are a lot of positives coming out of this, but what about some of the students in internships? Because so many industries, so many companies aren't even allowing some of their employees back into a typical business setting. What does this mean in the world of internships for some of your students? Because that information and that experience can be so valuable for them in their future path in life.
Well, absolutely. And, you know, we had to sit back and look at what were the most critical things that we had to make sure our students learned before we could call them doctor, before they graduate. We want to make sure that they're ready to enter their internships and their residencies. And we had a short timeline. If you remember, I think we were rather fortunate that the pandemic began when it did, because we only had 8 weeks left of class to really get through. Imagine now, as we're starting to see our numbers go back up again, we're having to reassess, are we getting back to where we were in February and March? So what this means for our current first and second year students, we have made the decision that there will be no face-to-face interaction till at least mid-March. So we're going to continue teaching everything remotely and do as many interactive sessions as we can remotely. So we even have still live lectures going on with interactions with the students, but it's going to continue to be a challenge. And we're going to try to do the same things in the clinics as we go forward. So we watch those volumes very carefully. The other thing that's happening that's unique to this year, as our fourth years are now getting ready to start choosing where they're going to go for their residencies, traditionally in the past, they ventured all over the country. They would get on an airplane, they would go for an interview, they would spend a day at the hospital, decide if this is a place where they wanted to train for the next 4, 5, 6 years. That opportunity is not there this year. So all of the fourth year students across the entire country are having to do this virtually. There's no going to visit. It's a challenge not only for the students, but it's also a challenge on the hospital side, because they don't get to see these students now individually and spend time with them to decide who's the best fit for their program. So this is actually ongoing right now through November, December, January. We have our students doing virtual interviews across the country. There are now coffee hours with residents on weekends. There are social interactions that happen the night before the traditional interview. And in order to get our students ready for all that, we actually had mock interviews. We've had sessions with them on mock social interactions to get them ready for the new way. Will it be like this next year? I'm not sure. We'll have to see. How are we going to handle this next year? Will we go back to the traditional, where somebody would go to 10 or 12 programs, spend a lot of money getting on airplanes and going around the country and taking a look at potential places where they want to train for their specialty? So this is very different for all of us, but again, the resilience and the adaptability of our students and programs and physicians and staff across the country is truly amazing.
Yeah, medical school is not easy. And you put on, like, I'm going back just to my, biology class where you had to dissect, a frog or a pig. There are some things that just need to be hands-on.
Right.
And do you worry that some of these students are not going to be prepared for that human interaction, hands-on approach, because they're going to be delayed because of this pandemic?
Well, I will tell you that's a great question, and one that we grappled with early on with anatomy. When I think back to when I went to Wayne State, 40 years ago, we spent a lot of time in the anatomy lab doing our dissections and learning relationships. And I can tell you that was some of the most important learning for me of all of medical school. I became a radiologist, and I used anatomy every day of my practice for the next 40 years. So it still stays with me today. How did we get around that today? COVID didn't allow us to put 4 students on a cadaver to be able to do their own dissection. We have a class of 125, and when we looked at our space, we found we were limited to less than 15 or 16 people that could be in the lab at a single time. We had to resort to asking our anatomists, our professors, to do prosecting. In other words, they went into the lab and did all that dissection for the students and getting it all ready for them to come in the next day. So this is perhaps not the same way that I learned, but it's the way that they're learning right now. So they are still seeing. We have excellent videotapes that we have available for them. So I'm convinced, at least in that area, they're going to be well prepared. We're not, like I said before, we're not going to have hands-on face-to-face till back into March of next year. But we're not eliminating anything. It's just going to be compressed into a shorter time frame. So we think we'll have them ready to go on to their internships.
Well, the good thing is technology is a little bit different today than what it was when we were in school. So that is the good thing that is coming out of all of this. Dr. Dwayne Mesbah with us here. He is the Dean of the Oakland University William Beaumont School of Medicine. Right now, with this new surge of COVID-19 hitting so many of our communities, think the one thing that is coming out of this is it really is putting such an emphasis on our healthcare system and the need for people to go into this arena. Do you think that's going to continue post-pandemic?
Yeah, there's no question. We spend a lot of time out in the community trying to make sure that folks are educated and know what medical school is all about. The interest is still very strong. I spend a lot of my time talking to students who are thinking about going into medical school. I spend a lot of time with some students who may not get into medical school the first time around, and how can we improve your application to actually get you into medical school. Spend a lot of time with our medical students in determining what they're going to do for their life career. What kind of doctor do you want to be? That's a challenge for all of our students, because you change so many times throughout your entire medical school training. I know for me, I didn't decide I was going to be a radiologist until the first month of my last year. And I like so much of the different rotations. But yeah, we do spend a lot of time getting them ready. And I do think the interest is still very, very strong. And it really starts in that middle school level, high school level. We have several programs that we put together over the summer, and some of them had to be done virtually this year. But we do have a pipeline program. We get students interested from the community, especially from our Pontiac area, where we spend a lot of time in the community with students. We have our students going into high schools and middle schools and teaching and spending time with students, understanding what the science and technology and engineering and mathematics is all about, and getting them interested in the health sciences.
But with that, Doctor, one thing that even came out prior to the pandemic was the lack of diversity going into the healthcare industry, into medical schools, because the cost is astronomical. What's being done to kind of address that lack of diversity, to try to get some of these bright students to go into the healthcare industry?
You know, that's another great question, and one that's being addressed even at the national level by the AAMC, the Association of American Medical Colleges. It's a very sad fact. If you go back and look at where we were with underrepresented minorities 15 years ago to where we are today, we have not moved the needle very far. So our generation has not done a great job. And it's going to take us really getting down to that middle school level. Our pipeline programs are very important. But even if we do find the best and the brightest, and we are looking for students who come from families who are in need, it's part of our mission to get them into medical school. We need more money. We need more money for scholarships. I'm very proud to say that at least this year we held our tuition to no increase, and we increased our scholarship distribution by 20% this year. So our students are in definite need. People talk about the large salaries and incomes of doctors, but when you look at our students who finish, our average debt for our medical students coming out of OUWB is about $240,000. So before they even get out into practice, and that's before residency, so they'll have more debt when they get through their residencies. They have a mortgage before they even have a house. So it is a very, very difficult thing to handle, and that's why the scholarship dollars becomes very, very important.
So do you think that hopefully that conversation can be pushed to the forefront to address the issue?
Yeah.
And that could be the good thing coming out of this pandemic.
Yes, there's no question. But even without the pandemic, we need to fix this. I mean, it absolutely is broken and recognized across the country. We need to look at our traditional Black colleges and try to get more of the students into our schools. And it's a concerted effort that we try to make, but we're limited by some of the laws in the state with how we actually admit our students. So that is a concern, but we do a holistic review and look at all aspects of our students, trying to increase that number.
Well, it seems like you still have a very competitive field of applicants trying to get into the school there at the William Beaumont School of Medicine at Oakland University. So the good thing out of this is we have some great people going into the world of medicine, trying to fix our world. So, and they have great educators such as yourself with real life experience. So we want to thank you for being with us here on the Oakland County Megacast, and thank you to your entire team over there at Oakland University.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate being on. Thank you.
It is not an easy time to be an educator. I'm thinking elementary school, 5th grade math, but could you imagine medical school? That is just beyond comprehension. So thank you for you and your entire team and all of your efforts. That's going to pretty much wrap it up for the Wednesday edition of the Oakland County Megacast. For myself and Tyler and Jake and Larry, we want to say thank you for tuning in to the Oakland County Megacast, and we'll be back tomorrow at 10 a.m. Have a happy Wednesday, everyone.